Okay, guys, so since the last video ran out of space, this is just a continuation, and it is very short. This is just a continuation of this one source from 1944, noting that the date is both a value and a limitation. The student suggests the date is also a limitation. It was written before the war. It isn't really able to offer enough information. In terms of origin, the source is also limited in that Anderson was herself a formerly factory worker. So some of the stuff that was noted. There is a citation here, so particularly well attuned to the thinking of the female employees. There is a source citation here. It offers a little bit of a quote. So the author's perspective is perhaps part of the origin, and the student is going to make note that that is a limitation, and perhaps using the quote is helpful. It strengthens the limitation rather than making it just the fact that the author could potentially be biased. There is some specific things. The other source discussion is about the purpose. The purpose of this source is to underscore the importance of the adoption of measures to secure the position of women in the American post-war workforce. The address is valuable insight into government plans at the time. It's limited in that its purpose, having been written to convince others, may limit or omit some inconvenient truths. And this is perhaps a spot where the student is kind of throwing out there the potential for bias, but there's not a whole lot of evidence that it is bias, so perhaps this is kind of a weaker part of the OPVL here. The source is valuable because it provides insight into government plans. That doesn't really tell us how it answers her question or anything really specific, and it's, the reader up here says it's kind of repetitive, and then also, the limitation isn't particularly a strong limitation. I have no evidence from the source itself to know that there was anything inconvenient truths about the government's process. Maybe it's not that way at all. So without having evidence, so as you do your OPVL, just kind of consider that you want to make sure you come up with one or two values, one or two limitations, and that they are really specific to the source themselves, and they're not, general things about any source, but really kind of would impact, your particular research question because of the value or the limitation. Okie doke, I hope that's helpful. I will post the two documents so you could look at them more in depth, just offering that as some additional insight to the OPVL. And just lastly, you do need to hand in the question, the plan of investigation, the summary of evidence, and the evaluation of sources together. They kind of work in tandem together. They support each other. Without the question, it's really hard for me to read the evaluation of sources. But you do not need to, at this point, make additional changes to the summary of evidence, to the plan of investigation, or to the question. I'm not going to grade those sections unless you wish to. The very next phase of this will be the analysis section and the conclusion. It's the last two parts of the investigation. When you go to add those two pieces, you'll be handing in a draft that the whole thing will be kind of graded, so you'll get a chance to go back to the earlier sections. You're certainly welcome to do that for this. Earlier is sometimes better than waiting to the last minute. So if you have time, certainly by all means feel free to make changes. I'll provide feedback on them if you make changes, but you don't need to do that. I'm really grading the evaluation of sources for Friday's assessment, and it's 15 points. The rubric is on Schoology. Thanks a ton. Have a good day.